Hello and welcome to another episode of the Punt Return podcast, here to talk Super Bowl 54. I'm your host, Josh Wire, and as always, joined by Nick Splitter and James Rosewarne. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
Very well, thank you, mate. It's been an interesting week off, I suppose, from the podcast.
Yeah, it feels like a month. It's taken me 3 goes to start the show, so no one can hear that, thankfully, through the magical tool of editing.
All sorts of issues trying to get this Super Bowl episode up.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been pretty good all year.
I know, we've been
good all year, and it comes to today.
We've been spectacular. You know, we're not Andy Reid off the bye. We're Matt Patricia just off any sort of preparation. James, how are you? And I noticed you've been doing a lot of content Super Bowl related for Stats Insider this week.
Yeah, a couple of pieces of sort of a more holistic look at how both the Chiefs and the 49ers got here, and really enjoyed writing them, and I think they've come up pretty well. So give them a read if you get a chance, guys, out there.
Okay.
Ahead of the Super Bowl.
This is kind of weird. This is the first Super Bowl where I haven't spent like weeks researching. I normally come into every Super Bowl with like 2 weeks worth of research, as opposed to 2 hours. I've just been so busy the last couple of weeks, and I'm actually genuinely excited at the Super Bowl. So I kind of just wanted to go in with the less I know a little bit, because I kind of really like both these two teams, and I think it'll be a fun Super Bowl, and I think the range of outcomes is pretty much endless at this point. But, you know, some cool storylines before we get back into last week's results. We've got Patrick Mahomes versus Jimmy Garoppolo. It's the first matchup of first-time Super Bowl starters since Colin Kaepernick and Joe Flacco back in 2012. Andy Reid's back in the Super Bowl after 15 years. Kyle Shanahan's looking to replicate, you know, his father's Super Bowl success there. And then the 49ers also have a first female and openly gay coach in the Super Bowl in Katie Sowers. So that's pretty cool. And then there's also the added element of the D Ford, the kind of, the revenge element, in that regard. So it's a lot of different things going on, but, a lot of good storylines. How did you find conference week, boys?
A lot of fun.
Pretty intense. That 10-zip lead, 10-point lead that Tennessee had, and for a moment we thought, hang on, but then the KC train rolled over them, and then the San Francisco game was a bit of a fizzer. So
yeah, that kind of went exactly how the first meeting went. Yeah, definitely. Lock of the week though, we did very well, over 52.5 in the Tennessee Kansas City game. That's giving us 0 losing weeks so far in the playoffs with the locks, with the Bills being the push, or if you got on early and listened to the show early, you would have got the plus 3.5 with the extra hook there. So no losing weeks for the show during a playoff, kind of a surprising playoff game when we saw Tennessee go on a run and things like that. So I think all things considering, we avoided the Saints, as well. In a big spot, they were the biggest favorite in week 1 and things like that. So I think we've done pretty well. And then obviously, Raheem Mostert had a massive conference championship weekend, but I think Nick Splitter might have had a bigger weekend. 3-0 last week, hitting a long shot double of the 49ers minus and the over at the 320. Huge week from you, mate.
It was a very good week. My playoffs haven't been fantastic. They've been okay. I've still been profitable, but this made it all worthwhile.
Yeah, very good weekend. 2-0 for me as well with the 49ers, and then the over as well. I whiffed on the long shot. I had Tyreek Hill going off. Instead it was Sammy Watkins having his second big game of the season. The last one was all the way back in week 1. So I kind of whiffed on that. And then James 1-1, but you had the Titans at $41 of the AFC. You came agonizingly close.
Yeah, I was able to at least do a little bit of business. KC, I think, got out to about $1.90 in play, so which was nice considering the similar situation the week prior against Houston. So I'm hoping for something similar again if we can find a spot in game, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any final thoughts from any of those teams that sort of exited conference championship weekend before we get, Straight into Super Bowl 54 and go through those games, and we'll go through some props and various things as well. But is there any thoughts on, the Packers, or the Titans, just where they're at?
I really like the Titans this year, and I think they've definitely impressed me. I think they've impressed a lot of people. It would have been a bit of a fairy tale to kind of have that run continue into this week, but I think that, the two best teams throughout the playoffs are here, and I think both these two teams deserve to be in the Super Bowl, and should be a cracking game.
Yeah, James.
Yeah, Packers a bit of a takeout for me. I still, I probably you guys agree with me as well. I'm not even sure they're a top 10 team. I sort of mentioned that a bit later, and that could have been a really, really, really embarrassing conference championship. The scoreboard kind of flattened them a little bit in the end. They've got still a lot to fix up. Do they have major playmakers? Rodgers is aging. The defense is still, just borderline league average, if that. So they've still got a while to go, I would say.
I think both teams,
given that they're coming straight back.
Yeah, I think both teams could be regression candidates next year. I know, all signs point to Tennessee sticking around, but, maybe they overachieved a little bit, this playoff series. And we see it time and time again, teams go on these deep playoff runs and then they're never back there for a few years. So there's always there's always teams that drop out of the playoffs every single year. So I definitely think both of those teams are candidates. Although I think the Packers, given how stacked this wide receiver draft class is, should be able to be in a spot to get some reliable targets outside of Davante Adams to really help Rodgers, because you shut down Davante Adams and it's throw to 47-year-old Jimmy Graham and a bunch of guys called Geronimo and Allen. It's just
Allen Lizard.
It's not a great core of weapons there, unfortunately. And I know that it's not the be all and end all when it comes to playmakers on offense. You've got to be built up front and good coaching and things like that. So, but I do think that when the game's on the line, you need a little bit more safer hands and some reliable targets. So I think if I had to pick one team to be back there, I'd probably just stick with Aaron Rodgers rather than Ryan Tannehill at this point. Okay.
Yeah, and they'd probably want to diversify that attack going forward as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Super Bowl 54 is here, and as we said, as Nick said, the best two teams in the playoffs, and probably outside of the Ravens, the best two teams of the regular season in the playoffs. So, it's a win for fans. I think it's a win for the casual NFL fan that they get to see Patrick Mahomes play in the Super Bowl as well in just his second season, already headed to great things. But just some numbers before we get into the matchup itself. Favorites have accumulated a 34-19 straight-up record in Super Bowl history. That's 64.2%. But that number dips to 51% when we pay attention to the number that matters that we always talk about on the show, against the spread. So they're 26, 25, and 2. So that's pretty much a complete wash. And then the over has a slight edge as well, 26, 25, and 1. There's no over-under in Super Bowl 1. What were they doing? Come on, guys. Get with it. Only twice in Super Bowl history has a point spread closed at just a single point. In Super Bowl 16, the Bengals were 1-point favorites over the 49ers, and San Francisco dominated the majority of the game despite the close scoreline of 26-21. And then 6 years ago, the Pats closed as 1-point favorites after opening as 2.5-point underdogs. The result of that game, if you just look up on Wikipedia, Butler, Malcolm, you'll find out the result of that game. And the NFC owns a 27-26 edge over the AFC in the first 53 Super Bowl matchups. And now looking at both these teams, both teams are 7-1 straight up and 6-2 against the spread away from their home stadiums this season. And a little bit of referee juice for everyone involved if you believe if you want to get the foil hat out and think games are fixed or whatever. In his 15th season, referee Bill Vinovich will head Super Bowl 54 officiating crews since 2012. Favorites are 3-7 straight up and 2-8 against the spread in playoff games refereed by Vinovich. So he's making bank betting on dogs.
Conspiracy theory for you, Josh.
Yeah,
Bit of conspiracy theory for you, Josh.
I've always got to have a ref stat in the Super Bowl show at this point. It's just a little bit of fun, just to appease the inner conspiracy theorists in all of us. We're all at heart a fan of a good conspiracy theory.
Are you wearing your tinfoil hat right now?
No, I'm not. It's upstairs. I'm saving it for the big game. I'll be wearing it. If anyone is in Sydney and heading to Luna Park for the Luna Bowl, myself will be there. Same with Josh Wooten. You may remember him from the Wooten Wire show. He'll be there as well. So look out for the foil hats and you'll find us. But the 1-point favorite thing was interesting because this game is a 1-point favorite. So both the times it's kind of 1-1 there. The Pats won as a 1-point favorite, even though they opened as 2.5-point dogs, and then the 49ers upset as underdogs when they were 1-point dogs, and that's where they are here. So the line is Kansas City -1. The total is 54 or 53.5, depending where you look around, but it's hovering around that 53, 54 number. I'm just checking it now. Yeah, flat 54 still. And yeah, the time, this is 10:30 a.m. kicking off, Hard Rock Stadium, Miami. Boys, who wants to start? What's your thoughts on this game? Do we want to break it down in terms of offense versus defense, or do you just want to go ballistic and see where we go?
Just jump right in, I reckon.
Jump right in. All right, Nick, jump right in. Tell us where you're at. What are your thoughts? Who are you picking and why?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I think, like I said, these are the two best teams in the playoffs. Really, I think from the start of the playoffs, this is kind of what I would have thought as being the ideal Super Bowl matchup. I'm really hoping they don't jinx it because it should be a cracking game. I think all of us kind of would have loved to see the Ravens in the big dance. I think their season deserved it. But during the playoffs, both of these teams have been lights out and thoroughly deserved to be there. As I said, the fairy tale postseason, the Titans, was a hell of a run to watch. But, this is a matchup of two top 5 DVOA franchises. We'll start with the Niners. Last year, and this is where they're coming from, 30th for total efficiency by Football Outsiders. This year, they're all the way up to number 5 in the NFL. They're ranked 7th for offensive efficiency, really, which is staggering because we think of the Niners as this kind of defensive beast, this defensive Goliath. They're ranked number 2 on the season for defensive DVOA behind the Pats' miserly defense. But as I said, this is kind of one of the great redemption stories in the NFL. And one of the great things about how football works is this franchise has been a meme for a number of years. They're wallowing the depths of despair through nearly 20 years. That head coaches Erickson, Nolan, Singletary, and then Harbaugh arrived and kind of turned things around for 3 years or so. But including Harbaugh's last season, they compiled a 25-55 win-loss record with Tom Sula following Harbaugh, Chip Kelly, and the first couple of seasons of the Shanahan era. James wrote, as he said at the top of the show, in his 49ers breakdown, Shanahan has implemented an offense which has steadily increased San Francisco's points per game, their yards per game, and rush yards per game to the point that they're 7th defensive efficiency. And that's amazing coming from where they were a couple of years ago. On the other side of the ball, they've got Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dee Ford, Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner, Richard Sherman. This is just destruction on the defensive side of the ball. And it's really hard to find a consistent way to beat this 49ers team. Looked at the Packers through the year, and we knew that you run the ball and you've got a really good chance of beating the Packers. A whole lot of other teams have their weakness. We've been talking about it for 2 months with the Ravens, and the Titans did it. But this 49ers team is incredibly hard to find a weakness and find somewhere to beat them consistently. They've lost 3 games all year by a combined 13 points. So it's 13 points all year they've lost games. It's the 3rd highest point differential in the league, behind just the Ravens and the Pats. And guess who was 4th? The Kansas City Chiefs. And talking about the Chiefs, preseason and off the back of Patrick Mahomes' MVP sophomore year, we had the Chiefs. We all had the Chiefs over 10.5 wins in our preseason kind of predictions and making the AFC Championship game. James and I both had the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, for what it's worth, Josh. We'll have that one over you for a little while. But after 10 weeks, they were just 6-4, and I think we were all a bit shaky on where the Chiefs were headed. They'd lost to the Colts, lost to the Texans, the Packers, and the Titans. They're decent teams, but they're not special. Mahomes was banged up. He missed weeks 8 and 9. He injured his knee in week 7 against the Broncos. He came back in week 10, threw for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns, and still lost. And it just seemed like there was a breaking point coming in Kansas City, that they regrouped, and they regrouped big time. They won their final 6 regular season games by a total of 98 points. 98 points differential in 6 games, which is amazing, and stormed back from a 3 touchdown deficit to then annihilate the Texans in the playoffs by 20 points in one of the greatest kind of comeback victories I've ever seen in playoff football. And then they just kind of dismantled the Titans in the championship game. The Chiefs are ranked 3rd in offensive DVOA, 2nd in special teams DVOA, but their weakness lies on the defensive end, where they're ranked just 29th against the run. So there is a clear weakness with the Chiefs against the Niners. So who wins? Well, I'm going against the numbers because I like the Chiefs in this spot. I can't explain why. They're in form. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, even if Lamar Jackson is the MVP, and he probably will, and incredible breakout season. Football Outsiders have Mahomes ranked no lower than 3rd in all of their quarterback metrics. No other quarterback in the league is ranked in the top 3 for all of those metrics. So Mahomes is elite in he's increased his rushing output. I think the Chiefs are too good. I think they're ready. Andy Reid is primed for a Super Bowl, and the Chiefs win, and I think they cover.
Okay. So what's your exact score? We do this normally on the show every year for the Super Bowl.
Score. My exact score is Chiefs 34, 49ers 31.
Okay, so you like the over as well.
I do like the over.
Okay. James, what have you got for us? Are you on the Chiefs with Nick, or are you going against the grain and picking the dog?
No, I like the Chiefs. Obviously, the 49ers, absolutely brilliant, totally deserve to be here. But give me the team who can put points up in their sleep, can come back from any situation, as they've proven over the last 2 years, but particularly during these playoffs as well. I just kind of like that comfort about a team that can score at will. Now, 49ers obviously been completely barnstorming. And like Nick says, I think they've had the toughest schedule and beaten the better teams this year. But at the same time, I think they were lucky to get the Packers in that conference championship game. Duly destroyed them, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like they had that ultimate massive test. Maybe there wasn't that ultimate test in the NFC this year. Maybe it was the Saints. We never got to see that. And guys, I'm not going to mention Seattle again. But here's the big thing for me. Are we completely, and this is not an anti-Jimmy G sentiment whatsoever, but are we completely comfortable with the 49ers having to rally if they're in that situation? And are we sure Jimmy G's up for it? This is a stat that I absolutely love. In tight games at any point, where the margin is between 1 or 10 points, Mahomes' passer rating in those situations, 110. Garoppolo in that same situation, 79. Now, when the game's a blowout, that's between 10 and 30, let's say, and that's where Jimmy's comfortable. That's where the running game can get going. His passer rating in those situations, 113. Mahomes, again, it's 110. So a massive discrepancy between what Jimmy G does when there's no pressure on and when the heat is on. Again, this is a really young career. We're sort of in the second or third, maybe fourth, depending on the sort of how we consider the reconstruction of that knee and when that sort of happened and how much time he missed, including also backing up Brady for so long. So it is still young. I think 46 something starts or something. So that dip does concern me. And I'm just not sure just yet whether we've seen him under that kind of duress and seen him thrive. I think another big factor here is how locked in and improved. I'm not going to say great because we know they're not, but this is an improved KC defense. This isn't the defense we saw last year. And weirdly enough, Josh reminds me of that 06 Colts team, to be honest, that won the Super Bowl that year, that just kept that sort of, I think of that pro cycling, that term that Sky Racing did, the incremental gains, just getting a little bit better by the week. I remember because I was on the Colts there, Tony Dungy saying, we're just a tackle away, we're just one tackle away from being good. And he was ultimately right. And they won that Super Bowl off that supercharged offense and the defense that just did that job. So that's the kind of way I'm sort of analysing or thinking about that Chiefs defense coming into this game. 6 of their last 7 games, their opponents have been held to under 400 yards. And only 3 times this year have they given up 30 plus. They did it 6 times last year. So they've almost, that's a double sort of improvement there under Spaniolo, this year. We also saw in the conference championship, that job the Chiefs did. Has anybody in recent times done a job quite like that on Derrick Henry? 19 carries, 69 yards, completely shut him out of the game and hence shut the Titans out of the game. So again, this is not taking anything away from the 49ers, but I just think the Chiefs, if they can stop that San Francisco run, that multifaceted run, maybe get a lead, maybe put it in Jimmy's hands, then we might see a different game altogether. But I just love the comfort of being with Mahomes and Andy Reid. I just not comfortable betting against those two. So Chiefs for me. Okay,
and what's your exact scoreline in Super Bowl 54?
I had 33-23. So
bit of a scoregami.
23. Bit of a scoregami, but the kind of thing I thought maybe a couple of San Fran touchdowns, but sort of that bend don't break Chiefs defense might give up some field goals as well in that process. So that's how I landed on the 23 number for them. And Chiefs clear 30 seriously for breakfast. So be surprised if they don't get over 30 again.
You talked about not betting against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid's teams are 23-4 straight up and 18-9 against the spread all time after a regular season or postseason bye. Since joining the Chiefs, he's 7-3 straight up and 6-4 against the spread with that extra week to prepare. So that's something to note as well, with that extra week to prepare, Andy Reid's very, very strong. I'm not sure about Shanahan's numbers are the same, but I assume the good coaches with that extra time to prepare are always going to be a lot stronger.
And guys, that's the kind of theme that I'm personally most interested in this Super Bowl, is that sort of Andy Reid coronation. Like, I don't think any of us would doubt or deny that this guy deserves a ring. Like, he's been absolutely wonderful for 20 years. I know he's had clock management issues, but what he's done for offensive innovation, stability within franchises, energizing dead franchises. Philly, as Nick would absolutely know, were nothing throughout the 90s. And then 9 playoffs in 13 seasons. Chiefs were 2-14 before Reid arrived, and the worst offense in football. Within 12 months, they're back in the playoffs and the 5th ranked offense in football. I just think he's just a wonderful figure for sport, and I would love to see him win a Super Bowl.
So, I agree with that. He's a great human being too.
I wish he'd won that Super Bowl about 8 years ago.
Against the spy-gating cheats. Well, unfortunately, while I agree with you and I really would love Andy Reid to win a ring, I'm going to go a different way here to you boys. But, this is a matchup where for the first time this season, I actually genuinely have not zero clue, but more so than ever, have really no idea how this is going to play out. And the way that it goes is just going to be truly fascinating for me. These two teams both deserve to be here and do totally different things, but so efficient, And, my numbers have the 49ers as 1.5 point favorites, which is, nothing much, but I'm just going to take the points of them and the money line. And I also lean the over. But yeah, I'm really curious to see what wins out here. The uber efficient passing game led by probably the most physically gifted quarterback we've ever seen in Pat Mahomes, or, the uber efficient running game led by, the best pure offensive play caller in the NFL right now in Kyle Shanahan. So both these teams do things so differently. And I think one of my favorite stats from the conference championship weekend is the Chiefs actually ran the ball more efficiently than Mahomes threw the ball. So that's how good they ran the ball against the Packers. Obviously, they probably won't have the same success now, but in this game, as James touched on, the Chiefs are obviously improving, and that 06 Colts reference is interesting. But looking at DVOA record versus spreads, your strength of schedule, yards per play, there's not a lot of difference at all between these two teams. Weighted DVOA though does favor the Chiefs. So yeah, yards per play differential gives the 49ers the edge. Weighted DVOA, which will, discount the first half of the season and a little bit of Pat Mahomes' injury, then gives the Chiefs the edge. But the one thing I keep coming back to in this game is the mismatch in the running game, and that favors the 49ers. The Chiefs are 29th in DVOA rushing defense and yards per carry allowed, and, it's a concern. And while they did do a terrific job in shutting down Derrick Henry in that AFC Championship, this is a totally different beast. It's a multi-pronged rushing attack. It's just unbelievably devastating blocking scheme. Kittle's the type of guy that's happy to not catch a single pass in a game if he can just block, have 4 pancake blocks and they run their way to victory. He's completely batshit insane to do that, and he doesn't care about his individual stats or anything like that. And it's also funny that, everyone's talked about the run game the last 2 weeks, but for most of the season, they actually had a really balanced attack, the 49ers. They produced 237 passing yards per game, which was 13th in the NFL, and 144.1 rushing yards per game, which was second in the NFL. They had the 4th most yards per game in the regular season, and second in points per game as well. So, everyone talks about the running game, and I know all the focus has been on the lack of Jimmy G's throws, but I think Shanahan got interviewed about that. Why did they only throw it 8 times, or why did they run it 34 times? And he just says because it worked. And I think it's just really smart. And if it's not going to work, then they're going to trust Jimmy G to throw it 35 times a game. And I know that, there is concerns about that, and you touched on those stats. I'll get to it in a little bit. But, on the other side of the ball, obviously the Chiefs have the clear edge at quarterback in this matchup. Mahomes has been spectacular in the playoffs. He's 12 touchdown to 0 interception ratio in 4 playoff games. But most outstandingly, 9.92 any adjusted net yards per attempt in those. And he's overcome 24 and 10-point deficits just this, postseason alone. But this 49ers represent probably the worst possible matchup for the Chiefs. Their defense can get pressure on Mahomes with 4, and it leaves 7 men in coverage. That helps take away those deep shots. So it's just hard to see sort of 350-yard day from Mahomes. And as a result, I think that's probably why I kind of lean towards towards the 49ers. But, the 49ers surrendered the fewest passing yards per game in the NFL, 169.2. They forced teams to run the ball, and running the ball is something the Chiefs have not done efficiently lately, with the exception of Mahomes. They rank 14th in rushing offense, DVOA. Damian Williams has not been an efficient runner of the ball, although he's a great pass catcher and great in the red zone as a pass catcher. And then the San Fran defensive line, they dominated the games this year. They rank second in the NFL in adjusted sack rate percentage. But it's worth noting the Chiefs rank fourth in the NFL in pass protection according to Football Outsiders, and have allowed the third fewest sacks this season. But they're going to have to play lights out or else. And I do think we'll see Mahomes take off and run a lot more than we expected. And I think he showed that he's pretty dynamic on the ground not last week, but in the conference championship weekends. But San Fran are 11-1 straight up, 8-3-1 against the spread when it finishes with 3 or more sacks this season. One area of concern for the 49ers that, kind of shocked me in their 3 losses this year. The opposing offenses converted 17 of 38 third downs. But they were second overall in the league on defense at stopping third down conversions. And the Chiefs boast the league's second best third down rate, as they converted 47.3% of them. And actually over their last 3 games, 53%, which is staggeringly high. But then on the other side of the ball, the Chiefs defense during their 2 comebacks, their opponents, when in those 2 comebacks against the Texans and the Titans, they only converted 8 of 25 third downs. So, that's, getting 1 tackle better and that incremental gains that James talked about. But the 49ers, they're 4th in the NFL in converting third downs. So they're very good at converting third downs as well. Opposing tight ends have also thrived against the Chiefs secondary, and I think that's a matchup that the 49ers might exploit. Kansas City Chiefs rank in the bottom 5 against opposing tight ends. Position averaged 6 receptions and 61 receiving yards per game during the regular season. And George Kittle, before the playoffs, averaged nearly 8 receptions and 97.3 yards per game in the last 4 games of the regular season. So, look, even if Mahomes proves too tough to slow down considerably, Jimmy G, I think, showed it against the Saints and twice against the Cardinals. I know it's a different team, the Cardinals, but still, he's capable of coming through in a shootout, especially against the Saints. Those clutch throws against the Saints. I remember we talked about it on this show, and we were pounding the table for Jimmy G because people were being way too harsh, calling him a sort of a game manager. And I think that's not really fair on Jimmy G. I don't think he's an elite quarterback by any means, but he's capable of coming through in a shootout. We've seen it with Nick Foles as well, and going up against all-time great quarterback. So, it's possible. It's a tough call, but I think the 49ers win. I trust their defense just a little bit more overall. San Fran, I'm going to take them +1, and I got 49ers winning 31-27. Any thoughts?
Interesting. I think you're right. I do agree with you about Jimmy G. I think that he's kind of underrated still after the season he's had, and we've seen him when he's needed to. He's come through, as you said. A lot of the time he hasn't needed to, and I think that they've tended to play that kind of running game because it's worked.
Yeah, like exactly. Why force throws when you're running the ball for 7 yards a carry? It's working.
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan's a good coach. Shanahan's a very good coach. He knows how to run an offense. We've seen it for years. He knows how to run an offense, and he knows how to call plays that work. So he's going to go with the hot hand. He's going to go with the guys that are running the ball efficiently and effectively. And if that means that Jimmy G doesn't throw the ball as much, well, that's what it means.
Yep.
But they've kept winning all year. It doesn't really matter what the test has been. But yeah, like I said, I think this test with Patrick Mahomes might be a bit too much for them this week.
And just on Garoppolo, he's the perfect quarterback for Shanahan as well, or at least in this system. There's not that much ego comes into it. Garoppolo doesn't seem to me the guy who, goes off and sulks and thinks he should have had 30 or 40 passes and should have aired it out sort of thing. I think it works really, really perfectly. He's got that perfect demeanor for a Shanahan system. Kind of like Cousins had in Washington as well.
The whole franchise seems like that though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So everyone does everyone plays their role and plays their part, and it doesn't matter if 1 week they have, and 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. The next week they might get 4 carries and,
Totally. And as you touched on, Nick, as well, in terms of that kind of turmoil that San Francisco went through from that franchise perspective, it's chalk and cheese to how it is now. And I sort of touched on it in my piece as well, thinking about the John Lynch appointment and how Jed York had to sort of sit right back and sort of hands right off and let these guys do their job. And what they've produced is this really stable, progressive system that really works for them. wouldn't work for everybody else. This run heavy sort of approach. Love what they've done as well.
Yeah.
This is why it's such a wonderful, wonderful Super Bowl.
Yeah. One thing.
Two really, really, really well-run teams.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I haven't touched on as well, and it does concern me about the 49ers, is special teams. And Nick touched on it a little bit. You do trust the Chiefs in Harrison Butker a little bit more than the 49ers kicker to make a clutch kick. So if it does come down to a field goal or two, then I do think the Chiefs have the edge, and Dave Toob does a tremendous job on special teams, and we've seen it in Super Bowl so many times. A kick return or a crucial fumble in the playoffs on special teams.
We could go back to that 06 Super Bowl while we're there as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't the first play for Chicago a touchdown?
Exactly.
Kick return touchdown.
So, it's, I think Toob was actually in Chicago as the special teams guy back in 06, surprisingly.
There you go.
Or unsurprisingly. He's just too good. But it's just a fascinating Super Bowl. I'm really keen. I feel like this could be a 17-14 game, and it wouldn't surprise me. It could be, Eagles, Patriots scoreline, and it wouldn't surprise me either, like 54-51 or something like that as well at the same time. We've seen the 49ers kind of struggle with the mobile quarterback in Russell Wilson, so maybe if Mahomes does, stretch his legs out a little bit more, then that could be the way that they go. But who knows? It's the range of possibilities is crazy, but we're both one of us is on the 49ers, two of us are on the Chiefs, but it looks like we're all on the over here. So should we lock the over in, even though I think a lot of the sharps are on the under, but I kind of lean towards this being more of a shootout. I just think both these offenses can score points.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I should mention as well, the model has a slight lean to the under, so it's something to be wary of. But yeah, I think we've all kind of said that we like the overs with those score lines.
I mean, we don't really have a lock,
let's do it.
Let's just we'll call it a reluctant lock of the week, which is just a great oxymoron, a real reluctant lock. But yeah, well, let's lock in the over. Let's go over 53.5 because you can get that out there. So over 53.5.
And while we touch on special teams, props to Aussie Mitch as well.
Yeah, Mitch Wisnowski.
Another Aussie in the Super Bowl.
Second Aussie in the Super Bowl after Ben Graham.
Yeah, and he's had a great year. He's had a great year too. So
good lad as well. Pro Kick Australia do a fantastic job. So well done to them. And anyone that says Jesse Williams has played in the Super Bowl, please take a hike into the Pacific Ocean. The guy, I've played as many regular season snaps as that guy. Please. He's blocked me on Twitter. So yeah, because he can't handle the truth. Clearly. All right, let's go. Super Bowl MVP. Let's go. Best bets. What do we got? We'll note 29 of the previous 53 Super Bowl MVPs have been quarterbacks. I'll start actually. I think if you're going to bet on the Chiefs, why not just bet on Mahomes for MVP? I feel like if the Chiefs win, Mahomes is winning MVP. I think that's probably the better bet. I don't know what the difference really is in price. Might be like 20 or 30 cents, but whatever value is value. I think it's just a better play than the Chiefs money line really. But if I was to have a bet, given that I like the 49ers, there's a couple of markets out there where you can bet on the position of MVP. I like any other position against the quarterback at like $3. You can get that out there. So if I think the 49ers win, I'm not really sure Jimmy G will be the sole reason why. So, Deebo Samuel at $41 is my dark horse. I think he's in for a bit of a game. And then you can also bet on like an individual position for tight end, at $10. Maybe it could be a Kelsey having a, Julian Edelman-like performance, or it's Kittle, huge blocking game and just catching maybe a crucial touchdown pass or two. So maybe taking a little bit of the slice of the $10 available for a tight end. So what have you got for us, Nick?
I don't mind that $10 for a tight end. I didn't see that market, but I quite like that. I mean, they're the two best tight ends in the competition at the moment.
Yep.
So that's not bad. Best bet. I mean, speaking as I did about the Chiefs and the Chiefs offense, the best bet has to be Mahomes. Like you said, I think there probably is about 25 cents difference between Chiefs money line and Mahomes MVP at $2. And I don't think we need to say too much more about that. But the dark horses, I've got Tyreek Hill at about $15 and Travis Kelce. I think if the Chiefs offense has a big day, which I think they will, then both of those guys are going to be really heavily involved.
Yep. Mahomes, for me, I mean, that would go to the script in terms of thinking the Chiefs would win. Dark horse, Honey Badger, 100-1, guys. He started every game, leads the team in picks, pass defended, first in solo tackles as well. And this is the one I really like. Just a minuscule 57.8 passer rating when targeted. Now, this would be contingent on if Jimmy G is indeed forced out of his comfort zone. Matthew might be in the best best place to sort of benefit from that. So
he'll need a couple of pass breakups and maybe a pick six or something to get it. Yeah, exactly. I just don't know if the voters are going to look at passer rating that quickly enough. Unfortunately, as much as I agree with you, but that's not a bad shout. I mean, my best MVP bet was Von Miller in the Broncos Super Bowl 20 a few years ago. That was amazing. So not quite as much value out there for Bosa or D Ford. Unfortunately, people are smartened up a little bit with their pricing on the Super Bowl MVP. Let's look at first touchdown scorer here. A best bet and dark horse again. Mine are very 49ers heavy. I just sticking with the team I'm backing. I like Deebo Samuel at 15s. I mentioned him just a little bit. He's been the most popular Niner receiver in the playoffs so far. He's 5 receptions on 9 targets and has doubled their next closest receiver in Kendrick Bourne in playoff receiving yards. So at $15, first time touchdown scorer, I'll take it. And you kind of get him involved on the ground. Maybe a jet sweep could be something we see from him as well. I like anytime touchdown scorer at $3.20. And then my roughie, speaking of the Bourne identity, Kendrick Bourne, $21. He's caught 30 passes this season. 23 of them have been for first downs. 5 of them went for touchdowns. He's a big red zone guy that they look for. I think he scored touchdown the first time 4 of his 5 times he scored. So, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, shop around 21. If I can get 26, I'll be happy. But yeah, Deebo at 15 for me.
Yeah, I've gone a bit Niners with the first touchdown. I think just based on the way that the Chiefs have started their last couple of games, they've kind of wavered early. And, no matter what Raheem Mostert did in the championship game, and he had a great game, but George Kittle is the 49ers' best player. And in big games, you go to your best players, especially when you need it. I think that they'll be targeting Kittle early. I think, like you said, if you can get him involved, whether it's with some big blocks or with some first downs, you want to get him involved and comfortable and playing with himself early. So I think they target him a lot and they target him early. So $11 for George Kittle for the first touchdown. And Emmanuel Sanders at $18 is a little bit of a dark horse. He's a really, kind of wily presence, a veteran presence for the Niners. And for the same reason, try and get him involved. He does lead this offense with Jimmy G. So, it's, there's a lot of different options for this one, but I like Kittle and Sanders.
Yeah, well, as I sort of said before, I'm hoping to find something in game with the Chiefs. So maybe San Fran can take that lead. And I think, as Nick said, I think George Kittle would be the best bet on that, in that realm. And I agree as well. I think he's their best player. The other thing that sort of runs into that is it probably exploits the Chiefs' biggest weakness, which is sort of underneath and in that sort of linebacker area, which I think Kittle can get sort of into and cause some damage with. So, yeah, Kittle for me, if I had to make a bet there for first touchdown scorer.
Yeah, obviously the favourite is Damian Williams at $8 if you are looking to take the chalk there. All right, player props as well. A few out there. I like Mostert over 72.5 rushing yards. In the Niners 2 playoff contests, he's averaging 139 yards a game and he's rushing for just under 7 yards per carry. I'm going to have a nibble at the $4 on offer for 100 plus rushing yards as well. I just think, given the injury to Tevin Coleman and the way that he's played, I just think it would be silly not to give him, at least 15 carries. And, I think he gets over the 70 mark pretty easily. Even though, I am expecting an improved Chiefs, defensive effort, but I just think Mostert's too clever and, in this scheme. I like over 4.5 sacks at $2.15. I'm expecting pressure on both quarterbacks. Look, Mahomes will be able to evade a couple, but I do think San Fran will still get 2 or 3, and then we can expect a couple from Jimmy Garoppolo. Not as mobile as Mahomes in the pocket. And then a few others I like. Mahomes over 30.5 rushing yards. Sammy Watkins under 50.5 receiving yards. Sanders over 2.5 receptions. Fred Warner over 6.5 tackles. Matthew over 5.5 tackles. And then Deebo Samuel, longest reception, over 24.5 yards. So that's where I'm at there. James, what have you got for us?
Well, I was actually thinking all about that, sort of going back again to the 07 Super Bowl it was, and talking about Dave Toll, talking about that kickoff touchdown. It was actually in Miami as well, which is the home of this Super Bowl. So there is a prop out there. There's $2.80 versus it's a yes or $1.30 no upon a defensive or special teams touchdown. So $2.80 might be worth your while there. I did sort of have something more of a playful bet, only because it was sort of one of those things on talent. So it was Sammy Watkins, $21 to score 2 touchdowns. And it was sort of just based on, how amazingly touted this guy was as a prospect. Certainly hasn't lived up to it. Maybe the Super Bowl could be his moment to shine. The underlying numbers, though, are horrendous.
The Watkins truthers would be on an absolute tilt if he has a 2-touchdown game.
6 multi-touchdown games in his career from 76 games. So that's not great. And he also hasn't caught a touchdown since week 1 anyway. But this would just be on kind of this guy came into the league one of the most sought after wide receivers this millennium. I've never seen anything like it. In fact, if you go through your records, he was one of the most prize recruits to ever come out of high school. If you go through those records as well, like 247. A huge prospect, but nothing really of note in the NFL. So this could be his moment to shine, though.
This is it.
Good way to bookend the season.
Yeah, exactly.
Score in week 1 and then
score in the Super Bowl.
Got a hat-trick in the first game, actually.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, like I've kind of done all year, I always like looking at the doubles, and so the Chiefs to win and the over, as we touched on before, you get for 375, which I don't mind. I think if the game plays out to the narrative that we've kind of talked about, or that James and I have kind of agreed on so far, that's a fairly solid value bet. The other one that I liked was Tyreek Hill to score the Chiefs' first touchdown and George Kittle to score the 49ers' first touchdown at $21. Just like James said, a bit of something to play on and just a bit of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't go too hard.
The Super Bowl is always fun. You just chuck up a couple of random props and go for your life. Or you could be someone like Rufus Peabody and just bet on like a bazillion props every single day for the last 2 weeks, which has been pretty crazy to watch all over Twitter and seeing those.
Matt.
What was the bet Mattress Mac put on?
I think literally in the last hour or two, he dropped $1 million on the Niners.
Ooh, jeez.
There you go.
There we go. All right, novelty props. This is where it's at. This is really James's bread and butter based off the document I'm looking at, where he's left this entire thing blank. And
this is the whole point.
All right.
I've never heard of Lovato.
You've never heard of Lovato? What do you? Gee, get on YouTube. She just sang at the Grammys. She was goosebumps at the Grammys, mate. Come on. Demi Lovato. Come on, mate. So the Anthem,
Linda Ronstadt.
Oh, mate, come on. How do you not know about Demi Lovato? She's an American singer, songwriter, actress, and television personality. She began her career in 2002, appearing on the children's television series Barney and Friends. You never watched Barney and Friends? Come on, mate. She's one of Albuquerque, New Mexico's best ever. Come on.
Well, I mean, if you're winning in Albuquerque, bring it on. How's the times?
Anyway, the Anthem's set at 2 minutes and 4.5 seconds is the kind of the pick'em over under at this point. There's some various other places around with juiced prices either side. So Lovato, she blazed past 2 minutes when she sang the anthem at Mayweather-McGregor fight in 2017. She was like 2 minutes and 15 seconds or something. But all of her previous renditions, which are outdoors, she finished shy of that 2 minute mark, but the recent one was so long. So it's a real tough one. Only 5 of the last 10 national anthems have gone longer than 2 minutes. So, where you're at on that? What do you got, Nick?
Oh, so you're right in that only one of her renditions has gone over 2 minutes, but the 4 previous were all building up to 2 minutes as well. They went like 149, 151, 156, 158.
Yep.
Something like that until finally she cracked the 2 minutes. And I think hasn't she also spent some time in rehab and calmed down and whatever. So maybe the heart rate might be a little bit slower and might be a bit calmer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm on the over anyway. I'm on the over 2.
I watched the Mayweather-McGregor one again, and she can belt out some tunes. And then at the Grammys, she really could hold a note there, and she was like, "I'm ready for this. This is my moment. This is my moment. This is it. This is it. This is a moment for Albuquerque, New Mexico. This is our time,
And the Barney show.
Oh, mate,
the big purple elephant.
He was just not an elephant, mate. He was a dinosaur. Come on,
dinosaur.
Come on, mate. Any play on the anthem,
at least I've heard of it.
James? Yes, that's true. Any play on the anthem, James?
Don't play on the anthem, guys.
Okay. No in-play betting on the Anthem.
Lombardo, and I've never seen her before. I just Googled it.
Over under 5.5 seconds on the last Brave. I like the over. I think she's going to belt that out. I'm just overs on the Anthem at this point. All right, song.
All in on the over.
Halftime song, first song. There's a couple of different ones out there depending on where you look. They've got a J-Lo first song and a Shakira first song, and then there's a first song overall. Apparently there's been like a leak set list that's got, I can't remember the song now. Get It Right, I think, is the song. On top of it, it was like, I don't know, the leak looked too good to be true. It was like a run sheet that kind of looked like it'd been stood on and was on the ground.
There's a leak every year. There's a leak every year.
I've been on, like, some of the leaks have been great, but, Get Right was the song, but I don't know, man. So when J-Lo sang at the Soccer World Cup, you know what song she opened with? Let's Get Loud. Let's Get Loud, baby. And I think that's the first song. I think that's it. You can get $10 out there for that. As if she doesn't start with that. That's the perfect song to open the Super Bowl with. So I'm going to take the $10 on Let's Get Loud, and I will be getting loud if that is the first song. What have you got?
What if Shakira opened? Well,
that's it.
I'm not really a listener of J-Lo or Shakira, so in good conscience, I couldn't give out a tip for this one.
Oh, mate.
Just because I don't really know.
Okay. I think
look, Let's Get Loud. Let's Get Loud is a banger.
It is a banger.
Let's Get Loud is a banger.
Whenever, Wherever is the first Shakira song, by the way. That's going to be the first Shakira song. That's $2.75, $3. She definitely will close with Hips Don't Lie. That's not going first. So, Whenever, Wherever, first Shakira song.
In terms of it being in Miami and with a huge Latino population,
yep.
How about J-Lo and Shakira go Spanish and do something Spanish for the first song? And
I don't know. Do you know the ownership of the NFL is just mostly white males?
Or the contemporary climate of the United States probably doesn't build well.
Yeah, but no, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all. All I'm banking on is Pitbull because I love Pitbull.
Winds his way into every major sporting event.
Yeah, no. I'm a closet Pitbull fan. I just think he just produces bangers. Yeah.
There are a couple of really fun ones, like how many times are they going to cut to A-Rod in the crowd while J-Lo sings?
Yep. And
which I thought was a nice one.
And Gerald Piqué, the Shakira's husband. I don't know if I pronounced that surname right, but yeah.
You did all right, Josh.
I did okay? Yeah.
That's not too bad.
That's okay.
Not too bad.
Mate, I'm away from Southwest Sydney. I'm not going to pronounce too many, foreign names correctly.
The other one was whether they'll bring Will Smith for his city title track, Miami.
Oh boy,
up on stage.
I'm out on Will Smith. I'm done with Will Smith.
The Fresh Prince.
Yeah, I'm done. Make a good movie. Haven't made one in like 15 years. Come on, mate. Let's go. James, I see you going with a coin toss. I'm never betting on the coin toss, but please, a penny for our thoughts.
Tails never fails. That's all I've got to add to that one.
No, I actually did a bit of research into this because the coin toss should be 50-50. Hypothetically, the coin toss is a 50-50 market and is the definition of a 50-50 market. But it doesn't always work out like that, especially in kind of short. But Tails has hit 53% in the history of the Super Bowl and has also hit 4 of the last 6 Super Bowls. So surely there's got to be some regression at some point. It's got to hit 50-50. That is statistical analysis. So I'm going heads.
Okay.
I'm not big on it. I'm going heads.
Okay.
That is statistical.
All right. I've got a couple in-game ones here, and then we'll finish with the Gatorade bath. Obviously, that's where we're going to go. But I like Darrell Revis to tweet about Richard Sherman during the game. $2.40. If he gets beat, if he gets beat by Tyreek Hill, which is a possibility just given Tyreek's insane speed, he's definitely tweeting about that. $2.40. Broadcast to show Pardon?
Can definitely see Tyreek Hill leaving Richard Sherman on Revis Island.
Yeah. The broadcast to show the Andy Reid, that punt pass clip where he's like a gigantic teenager and he's just holding the ball. That's $2. They are 100% going to show that.
They show it every game.
They have to show it. Like, they've been waiting 15 years to show this in the Super Bowl again. They are 100% showing that.
I never get sick of it. It's so freaky.
It is. He's a behemoth of a man. He's shrunk. Like he was bigger as a 16-year-old as he is as a 50-year-old. It's staggering to me.
It's just a strange bit of vision. I love it.
Yep. All right. Gatorade bath. Look, I always just take the biggest price and just hope for the best. So I'm going blue and orange. They're around the $6-7 mark. I'm definitely going for the blue and orange Gatorade bath. What have you got for us, Nick?
Well, red hasn't been done yet in the Super Bowl, so it's got to be done at some point. Red, it's the symbolic colour for both sides, so
it's not a bad call. $3.50.
Red, I was just thinking in terms of Big Red, Andy Reid, and as a tribute to Wuhan as well at the moment for everything that's happening.
Okay. Could we factor in yellow with a sort of a Kobe Bryant or purple? Kobe Bryant sort of tribute. $2.62 for purple. Yellow, $3.50. It's
okay. Yeah.
Bit of Lakerade.
Yeah.
Lakerade. Actually, I don't mind that. Yeah.
Well, now we're just back to square one. We've mentioned every colour. You know what's going to love water at this point? $3.50 because we've mentioned every colour except for water or clear. So there we go. Any final thoughts on any props or anything in that regard before we wrap up the show?
No, I'm good. I think we've spent too much time on the props.
Yeah. Oh, it's part of the fun. Yeah, we've got to attract the people that are into the novelty or aspect of the Super Bowl as opposed to DVOA and yards per play and Enya. So yeah, it's been good. I'm looking forward to it.
That would be weird if Enya came out with that.
I would love a bit of Orecchino flow. Just get it going. Just to reiterate, I've got the 49ers winning 31-27. Nick has the Chiefs winning 34-31. James has the Chiefs winning 33-23. It's worth noting the Stats Insider model has an orange play on the under and a small edge right now on San Fran +1 and the San Fran money line. Our reluctant lock of the week is over 53.5 as we all predict the score to go over. So we're going to take that as we can't settle on a team or a line given the line's only one. And just a reminder, though, if you are watching the NFL, just check Stats Insider throughout the week because the model will change as more and more info comes to hand. Some injury news about Tevin Coleman and things like that may change the model's decision. And, you know, if you're at home or even if you're on your phone or whatever and you're watching the game live, you can check out the live coverage on Stats Insider. So if you're just betting live or you want to follow the likelihood of the Chiefs or the 49ers, saluting, there's no better place to follow live NFL than statsinsider.com.au with live scores, play-by-play, and in-game match probabilities from kickoff. And that's from every single game, including the last game of the season. So just head to statsinsider.com.au/live or statsinsider.com.au/NFL. It's more than just a live score. And I just want to know, boys, is XFL content, is that going to be something on Stats Insider?
I can't see it being a priority on the roadmap over the next 12 months.
Okay, that's a real shame.
If everybody wants it, let us know.
Yeah,
let us know.
Yeah. Tweet us at Stats Insider. You can tweet us at Woot and Y. Boys, it's been a fantastic season. I look forward to seeing where we go next season with the show and everything. But it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm just going to say go the 49ers, but I'll let you guys finish the show. What have you got? Final message.
Wherever.
Go Big Red.
Wherever, whenever. It's a tribute to Shakira.
All right, that's good. From the team here, thanks for tuning in every single week. Please, if you do have any tips or any advice or any feedback, just leave us an iTunes review or, tweet us on Twitter. All of our hips don't lie, so we can take any constructive criticism and enjoy the Super Bowl, and we'll speak to you next season.